Welcome back to another video, and today we are going to have a look at the problems that you might face as a teacher in your first week back. And there's a wide range of these problems that you can face, and they're all problems you can overcome. But we're just going to have a quick chat about the types of things that are going to come up in your first week as a teacher. And I think it's especially important for those people going into their first year of teaching, because it's good to know what kind of bumps you're going to hit, what speed bumps are there in your first week, where you're not going to let them knock you off course. You're just going to know they're going to come up almost certainly, and you can power on through and get on with them. First of all, one of the big problems of your first week back that always happens, even after a shorter break, but especially after a 6-week break, is technical problems. And by these, I mean problems such as computer issues, forgetting logons, stuff not connecting, the Wi-Fi not working, the servers not being hooked up, the printer, all sorts of things. When we first went back to school this week, we did our 2 inset days, and on Friday it was the first day we were in school, and all our classrooms had been deep cleaned, and so everything was in the middle of the room, and we had to set all the computers back up again, make sure the router was turned on. And at my school, I'm quite technical minded, and I kind of know how some stuff works with computers, and so I'm often the one that will go around and help out in the classroom. I think in school I went around and I was obviously sorting out mine in year 5. I think I helped in year 6, in year 4, in year 2, in year 1, in FS2. I think there was just so many different things, and they were all different problems, and most of them were pretty easy to fix. They weren't kind of major difficulties, but it just means for people that aren't necessarily as technical minded, they're not quite sure how to fix them, and so they just need a little bit of a helping hand to get the right thing plugged into the right place, get the Wi-Fi turned on, get it all hooked up and connected. And where I also was emailing back and forth with our IT technician, who is in school on Monday to help us get all set up on the first day with the kids, but obviously wasn't in on Friday. And so that's just one of those issues that just be ready when you walk into school for the first time before, at the end of a summer holiday. Don't expect that everything's going to work perfectly, because it doesn't. It never does. And that's just one of those speed bumps you got to get through. And by halfway through the morning, everything was set up, everything was working fine, and we got on with the rest of our day. But it does just take a little while at the start to get those stuff set up, so make sure you're kind of ready for that. Once we had all that sorted, then the next thing that you might often face with terms of technical problems is things like making sure you can still print. So I know we were at another school, and I was working with a guy on our computing policies and our computing subject, and it was all going fine, but we were working at his school, and he was trying to print, and he just couldn't print anything. And that was beyond my level of technical ability. I didn't know why he couldn't print anything, but he'd worked there for a few years. For some reason now his laptop won't connect up to the printer, and hopefully they'll have got that sorted by now. That wasn't something I could do. But yeah, it's just those types of things where something that has worked for years all of a sudden won't work. And so hopefully again your printer will be hooked up and it'll be working fine. Then when you actually get the children back into school, you've got all the things your kids use. So you've got things like the register. A lot of schools do the register online. Is that register system set up with the new kids for the new school years, moved up a year? Same thing with kind of lunch systems, same thing with your Purple Mash, your TT Rockstars, your whatever else your systems, your computers use. Have all the children moved up to the correct year group? Have all the parents still got their logons? Have the kids still got their logons? Those types of things where things seem like they'll run really smoothly, and they normally do run really smoothly, but at the start of the year, it's just important to have all that stuff to hand, have all the logons to hand, have all the systems checked out, and make sure they're all still working the way they should. Has anything been updated? Loads and loads of these systems know they're not used over summer, so summer's the time when they send out their big updates and they update the graphics and the way things work. And it's brilliant, because if it does go down while it's being worked, then it's not necessarily going to affect children in school. However, when you come and haven't used it for a while, then all of a sudden you look at it and go, oh wait, one sec, I've not done that before, I've not used this website, I don't know why it looks like this. Then it does again take you a bit of time to get used to it. So do have a look at it before you first use it with the children. So they're your technical difficulties, and they do come up, and they do have some issues that go on. Now the next one you're going to face is things like changes to routine. So these again can be all sorts of things. For instance, this year our routines are changing in terms of our break times and our dinner times. So for the last few years, especially while COVID's been a thing, we've had staggered break times, staggered dinner times. They've all been different times due to obviously having to make sure everyone is a bit separate and different people out on the playground at the same time. This is the first year since COVID has been a thing that we're going back to everyone having break time and dinner time at the same time on the playground. And so our break times and dinner times have changed. So again, it's getting used to the routine. Whereas we used to have a longer period before break time and then a shorter one after break before dinner. That's not the other way around for me this year. So I've got a bit of a shorter time before the morning break, then a longer gap between morning break and dinner. So I'm going to have to move my lessons around a little bit, because where I used to fit a lot more in before break time and then we'd just do maths after break, I'm now going to do a bit less in the morning, probably just do writing in the morning, and then have our kind of reading, spelling and that kind of thing, and maths after break time. And again, we'll fit it all in. We've still got the same amount of time to actually teach. It's just about moving stuff around and getting used to that new routine. That's not just the teachers moving stuff around, but it's also the children. Children need to get used to the routine in the new class. And again, that first week is the time to set those routines, but it's also the time when you're going to face problems in terms of children not knowing what those routines are and getting used to how everything works, and maybe saying actually they're not quite sure why, or they don't quite like that routine, and motivating them to have it go, give it a try, and then obviously getting on with it as you move through the school year. So It's about getting those routines in place early doors, but it's not just the children struggling, it's also teachers getting used to their new routines like I'm going to have to do this year. And again, with like routines we're working before and after school. So if you're a teacher and you've got children, then you need to work out, have you got the routines in place for them to get to and from school? Or if they're at nursery, like mine started nursery on Monday, and so I'm going to have to work out, I'm dropping them off in the morning, picking them up after school. That's something I've never done before. And so that's a new routine. I'm going to have to get used to doing it around things like staff meetings, getting to school on time, getting all my work done after school, and then picking them up on time. It's just all those things where you might face some problems in terms of getting used to that routine and getting it sorted, but you will just keep on plowing through and you'll get there eventually. So there are all those routines and those technical problems and those things you might fix. The next one is one that I always face at the start of the year, and it involves one of these, which I'm currently halfway through, cup of coffee. Now, I do love a cup of coffee, and that only increases during the school term. I end up drinking probably too much coffee by the end of the term than I normally would like to do during the summer and during the holidays. But it's something that does obviously help me get through the day, help me keep myself going throughout the day, and I just do enjoy a cup of coffee. However, at the start of the year, normally where I keep my coffee, I know there's no coffee in school at the minute, apart from a bit that was like used for the inset days, the communal bit of coffee. So I'm going to make sure I get a bit of coffee brought in with me and some milk, that kind of thing, to use at school. Because if not, then I'll go through the first few days without any cups of coffee at school, and that's not something I particularly want to do. I don't know, for a lot of other people it's the same for them. They do like a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, whatever it is. Just make sure you've thought about that. And the same with like dinners. Make sure you've thought about what dinners you're going to have at school. So I know I normally batch cook my meals. I've talked about that on the channel before. It's just easier when you make your meals at the weekend. But I also know right now that I'm filming this on Sunday. It's Sunday afternoon. I've still not done it yet. It's the first time that I've thought about it, and that I now know I need to go and get my batch cooking done and get all that ready before the end of the afternoon to then be prepared for tomorrow and get my day sorted. So I know I've got a nice meal in the middle of the day. I have already pre-prepared all kind of my snacks. So I take a pot of fruit in that I munch on throughout the day just to keep me going, but I need to make sure I've got obviously my big meal in the middle of the day to power me through the afternoon. Once you've got all that sorted, another problem that you might face is things like timetabling issues. So when you start school, obviously one of the jobs I never envy that a head teacher has to do is they have to make sure they get the timetable sorted and everyone knows where they're going to be each lesson. And for class teachers, that's pretty straightforward. You're in class teaching. But for all your support staff, they might be in one classroom for a morning, might be in another classroom in the afternoon. At our school, we've got a nurture provision where some of the teaching support staff go and work in there in the afternoon as well with the children that's access that nurture provision. Again, I really don't understand how they can possibly work and manage all those different areas and get people in the right areas, but they always manage to do it, and it's always something I'm amazed that they do, and I don't envy them having to do it because it seems a really tough job. But that's somewhere where sometimes there can be things where, you know, someone might be double booked somewhere, or something might have been planned to be a certain way and then it might have changed. And for instance, my planning time this year is on a Friday. Originally at the first plan it was on a Monday, and everyone always knows, and it was said at the start, when you give out the first plan, things are subject to change, and it has changed, and I'm absolutely fine with that. I'm quite easygoing when my planning time is, but it's just about knowing that those things are subject to change. They do change every time. If everyone stays in school the whole time, that's absolutely brilliant, but people do go off school for, all sorts of reasons, perfectly valid reasons, and that means then people have to then cover for that and move stuff around, and it always is the case. So hopefully you are aware that, again, timetabling, just because you've been told someone's going to be in your classroom with you for that lesson, that might not always be the case, and always have a kind of a backup plan in the back of your head of what you might do if that doesn't happen. Don't be relying on that 100% to happen every single time, because things do change in schools. The last problem is probably quite a serious problem that I think all schools are going to face this year, but is also one that has never been faced before in this way. And that is the fact that the bills that schools use are going up so much. So we all know that every single domestic household has a price cap on their gas and electric bills, and the price cap is going up rapidly and is a really, really difficult thing for lots and lots of people. And I know I saw another person on Twitter recently, and I think I retweeted it, was saying how if you're starting on M1 this year and you work somewhere where the average cost of a house is a lot higher than where I am in like South Yorkshire, I know at the minute in somewhere like Guildford on the outer skirts of London, you might pay about £800 just to rent a room. And that's every month. And if you're paying that, maybe it might be more than that if you don't have your bills included. Then obviously that leaves a very small chunk of your salary left if you're starting at M1. And that is starting on a very good salary. And so you've just got to be aware of the problems people might be facing at the minute in their home lives too. And then you've also got to be aware that actually schools are going to face the same problems, because schools don't have a price cap on the gas and electric bills. And it's not an option that you can't heat a school, you can't have the lights on in school. It's not an option to just turn things off. So I really don't know how schools are going to manage that. And I think over the coming winter, you're going to see a lot of places and people and businesses and schools struggle with how on earth to manage the price cap and the bills that are going up. And it's something that if you are feeling like you're struggling with that, please do ask for some support. I know there's all sorts of places. I know Martin Lewis has loads of really good advice on what to do, and there's all sorts of support helplines that you can ring. And if you just want to talk about it, then talk to someone about it. Talk to me about it. Drop me a comment or a message, or on any of my, I think I've built on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I don't check them anywhere near as much as I do, but I do check for messages and that kind of thing. And so look, the thing here, the problem I'm going to face, and I've stuck this at the end of the video on purpose because this will be for those people that are really struggling at the minute. Do ask someone for help. Don't struggle on your own, because it is going to be a bit of a tough winter, I think, for a lot of people. And hopefully you can find someone, if it's family, if it's friends, if it's just a stranger, just to have a chat to, then do have a chat to someone about it, just to get it off your mind. But hopefully you guys will have a lovely first term. The build up to Christmas is always fun. It's always really, really busy, but it's always really fun. But do remember, some of these problems have been a bit lighthearted. Some of these problems are real problems that people are going to face. And hopefully at the end of the Christmas period, of the winter, as we go into summer, you'll all be ready and raring to face that last summer term, to get through your first year of teaching, or you've been a teacher for a long time, then get through another year, tick it off, and feel even more experienced in the job that you love doing. So thank you very much for watching this, guys. As always, it's been a pleasure. There'll be a new video on a Tuesday, a Friday, and a Sunday, and I will see you very soon.